Hello everyone, it's Myung-Jan. Today I am going to read S3 3233, Living in Space by Christine Dugan. Life in space. Forever and ever, people could only look into the sky and wonder what it would be like to travel into space. Today, we don't have to wonder. What is life like when you travel into space? Nobody knows better than the people who have been there. Astronauts can help answer many of our questions about living in space. Astronauts must work hard and study for a long time before they can travel into space. They are usually picked from many people who want to train for this kind of work. It can take up to 2 years to become an astronaut. But where does it all start? What is it? Astronaut is someone who travels from Earth to learn more about life in space. The word astronaut comes from the Greek words meaning star sailor. Johnson Space Center. The United States is one of the leading countries for training astronauts. Astronauts in the US begin their training at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. The center was first opened in 1961. President Johnson congratulates astronauts. Johnson Space Center. How it got its name. Johnson Space Center was named in honor of former President Lyndon B. Johnson, a Texas native. He was president in the 1960s during a worldwide push to land people on the moon for the first time. The Johnson Space Center has a famous room called the Mission Control Center. This is where people on Earth direct the space missions and talk to astronauts in space. They help the astronauts with the work they are doing. The Mission Control Center also watches over the astronauts and their spacecraft to be sure they are safe. NASA is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, founded in 1958. The Johnson Space Center was created to be NASA's main center for the design, development, and testing of spacecraft. Preparing for the new world. What do astronauts do at the Johnson Space Center? They spend a lot of time in class, just like you do in school. They must learn the many skills they will need during their space travel. Astronauts travel into space in groups, so they train with people they will work with in space. It is very important that astronauts work together as a team. Every person has his or her own job to do. They succeed or fail together, just like any team does. Astronauts also have to work with people on Earth who help them during their trips into space. These people work in the Mission Control Center. There is a lot of teamwork needed in space travel. Space gear. Astronauts use many special pieces of equipment while they are in space. They also wear different kinds of clothing depending on what the jobs are for the day. Some days, astronauts may leave the spacecraft and go outside into space. This is called a spacewalk. Astronauts use special equipment to help them survive away from the spacecraft. EMUs and MMUs. The suit that astronauts wear outside of the spacecraft is called an Extra Vehicle Mobility Unit, EMU. It has a headphone and a microphone, so the astronaut can talk to the team inside the ship. It also has oxygen to breathe and water to drink. In order to move around outside, the astronaut also wears a special backpack called an MMU, a Manned Maneuvering Unit. They practice spacewalks on Earth by going underwater in a huge swimming pool. Astronauts wear spacesuits when they go on spacewalks. The suits protect the astronaut from the conditions of space. In spacesuits, astronauts won't get too hot or too cold. They are also protected from too much pressure during parts of their space flight. The suits cover every part of the astronaut's body, keeping track. Must keep track of millions of parts and pieces of equipment, so they develop the barcodes. Have you ever watched the grocery store clerk move the products you are buying across a little device that beeps as they go by? the device reading the product's barcodes. Today, most businesses use barcodes to keep track of what they have sold and what's in stock. Astronauts need clothing for other situations. Besides the spacewalks, when they are working inside the spacecraft, they choose what to wear so they are comfortable and warm. They may wear long pants or shorts and t-shirts. The clothes have many pockets sealed with Velcro so they can keep things with them without worrying about them floating away. Cordless tools. Do you find your family own any cordless tools such self-powered tools were first developed by NASA to help astronauts drill for moon samples without needing an outside source of power? Today, many people own some sort of cordless tool. There are many pieces of equipment in a spacecraft. If nothing was fastened down, astronauts would never be able to find what they need unless it happened to float past them. During takeoffs and landings, astronauts wear special suits to protect them in case of an emergency. The suits come with a parachute in case an astronaut is ejected from the spacecraft. Suit also has a survival kit in case an astronaut is stranded. The survival kit includes a life raft, drinking water, a radio, and a smoke flare. These things will help the astronauts to stay alive until rescuers arrive. The suit completely covers the astronaut. A helmet, one over the head, provides oxygen in case the astronaut needs help breathing. Astronauts and firefighters have something in common. The protective suits worn by firefighters today are made of a fire-resistant fabric first developed for spacesuits. Eating in space. When you're working very hard each day, you should get hungry. Astronauts must be sure to eat properly while they are in space. But since there is no gravity there, eating can be tricky. If you were to sprinkle salt or pepper on your food in space, it would float away. Astronauts must prepare foods that don't have many pieces so they can keep it under control. A space trip has an oven for cooking. Some foods are made by just adding water. Other foods, such as fruit, are eaten the same way we eat them here on Earth. It's very important for astronauts to eat 3 healthy meals a day. They need the nutrition and energy to do their work. In that way, they are no different from you and me. Gravity is an invisible force that pulls everything toward Earth. It takes a bigger force than gravity for things to lift away from Earth. But once something has reached the space and is away from Earth's gravitational pull, it'll just float away like a balloon. Even the heaviest things on Earth become weightless in space because there is no gravity to give them weight. It's bedtime. Astronauts get very tired from all of the hard work, so they need a lot of rest. So just like you, astronauts sleep every day, but since there is no gravity in space, they can't just lie down in a bed. Astronauts usually sleep in sleeping bags. They have to attach themselves to something so they don't float around the ship. The bags may be attached to a wall or sit in the cabin of the spacecraft. Imagine that. Space pen. Most pens won't work that way, but the space pens developed for astronauts will. Most pens use gravity to make the ink flow into the ballpoint. The space pen contains a pressured gas that pushes the ink toward the ballpoint, so you can lie in bed and write upside down. Playing games. Do astronauts only work, eat, and sleep in space? That would be hard life if the trip lasts for weeks or months, so they try to have some fun too. Many astronauts who have traveled to space say that they have played the games with other crew members while there. They also have watched the movies and read books. Sometimes they even just look out the window to take a quick break. daydreaming into space or staring at beautiful Earth far away. Astronauts can see amazing sunsets and sunrises from space. Exercise is another very important part of playing. In space, astronauts must be sure their body stays strong. They don't exercise, their muscles won't work very well. So astronauts exercise each day. Spacecraft can have different kind of exercise equipment on it, such as an exercise bike. Astronauts strap themselves to the bike and start pedaling. The astronaut is using a weight machine to keep his leg muscles strong. Staying clean. How do astronauts take care of their bodies? Well, they do many of the same things we do on Earth. Astronauts can brush their teeth and comb their hair like we do. They don't like showers. However, instead, these travelers have to use soaps and shampoos that don't need water to rinse them off. They simply use a special soap or shampoo and then rub it off with no rinsing. It is important for astronauts to stay clean, especially since they are in a close quarters with others. Astronauts cannot use water to breathe their teeth. The drops of water would just float into the air. Since most people on Earth have never been in space, we have to be thankful for the brave men and women who have risked their lives to travel and live in space. They have taught us so much about what life is like beyond our own planet. Perhaps one day we can all find out for ourselves. The end.